November 24th, 1971. Thanksgiving Eve. Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305 departed Portland International Airport at exactly 2:50 p.m., destination Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. 36 passengers scattered throughout the cabin, 5 crew members, a routine 40-minute flight, partly cloudy skies, mild turbulence expected over the Cascade Mountain Range. But somewhere between Portland and Seattle, somewhere over the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest, a man sitting in seat 18C reached into his briefcase and pulled out a handwritten note. He folded it carefully. He waited until flight attendant Florence Schaffner walked past his row. Then, he handed it to her. She barely glanced at it. She thought it was a phone number, a passenger trying to flirt. It happened all the time in 1971. But when she tucked the note into her apron pocket and started to walk away, the man leaned forward and said calmly, "Miss, you better read that. I have a bomb." Florence stopped. She unfolded the note. Her hands began to shake. The note read, "I have a bomb in my briefcase. I want $200,000 in $20 bills, 4 parachutes, 2 main, 2 reserve, and a fuel truck standing by in Seattle. No tricks. If you cooperate, no one gets hurt." The man opened his briefcase just enough for Florence to see inside. Wires, red sticks, a battery. She did not know if it was real. She did not want to find out. She walked to the cockpit. She told the captain. The captain radioed Seattle. The FBI was notified. The man's name on the ticket was Dan Cooper. The press would later misreport it as D.B. Cooper after a reporter misread an early wire report. And for 54 years, no one knew if Dan Cooper survived the jump. No body was ever found, no parachute, no definitive evidence. Until December 2025, when an 8-year-old boy in Oregon woke up screaming in the middle of the night, remembering the exact moment he died. December 8th, 2025, Beaverton, Oregon. A quiet suburb nestled in the eastern shadow of the Tualatin Mountains, 20 minutes west of downtown Portland. Population 42,000, known for its farmers markets, public library, and rows of identical ranch-style homes built in the 1980s. The kind of place where neighbors wave, where kids ride bikes in cul-de-sacs, where nothing unusual ever happens. Rachel Thompson lives in a 2-story rental house on Azalea Drive with her husband Marcus and their son Lucas. Rachel is 34 years old. She works as a dental hygienist. Marcus is a software engineer for a tech startup in Hillsboro. Lucas just turned 8 in October. Brown hair that curls at the ends, wire-rimmed glasses he got last spring after failing his school vision test, obsessed with dinosaurs, hates loud noises, has never been on a roller coaster, terrified of heights, cries when his parents suggest hiking trails with elevation, a shy, anxious, gentle child, the kind of boy who brings injured beetles inside to protect them from the rain. On the night of December 8th, Rachel is asleep when she hears something that makes her blood freeze. Not a scream, not a call for help, but a guttural, choking sob coming from her son's bedroom. She sits upright. The sound is wrong. It is not the sound of a child having a nightmare. It is the sound of someone drowning. She runs down the hall. She throws open Lucas's door. He is sitting upright in bed, his blankets kicked to the floor, his small hands gripping the sides of his mattress so hard his knuckles are white. His eyes are open, wide, staring at the wall. But he is not seeing the wall. He is seeing something else, somewhere else. Rachel touches his shoulder. He flinches violently, like she has burned him. Then he speaks. His voice is hoarse, broken, older than it should be. "I jumped from the plane. The money was tied to my waist, but I got stuck in the trees. My legs broke. It was so cold, I couldn't move. I died there." Rachel's heart is pounding. She kneels beside the bed. She tries to keep her voice calm. She asks him what he is talking about. Lucas turns his head slowly to look at her. Tears are streaming down his face. His breathing is ragged. And then he says something that makes the entire room feel colder. "My name was Dan Cooper. I had a black tie from J.C. Penney. I drank bourbon on the plane. The flight attendant's name was Florence. I gave her a note. I had a bomb, but it wasn't real. I just wanted the money." Rachel feels her stomach drop. Her son has never watched a crime documentary. She does not allow violent television in the house, no true crime podcasts, no cold case files, no unsolved mysteries. Lucas watches nature shows, Disney movies, cartoons about talking animals. The family does not discuss plane crashes. They do not discuss hijackings. And yet her son is sitting in his bed at 2:47 in the morning, sobbing about jumping from a plane with money tied to his waist, claiming his name was Dan Cooper. Rachel has heard of D.B. Cooper. Everyone in the Pacific Northwest has. It is the most famous unsolved crime in American aviation history. But her 8-year-old son should not know anything about it. Rachel tries to rationalize. Maybe he saw something at school. Maybe another kid told him a story. Maybe he overheard adults talking. But Lucas is still speaking, and the details pouring out of his mouth are not the kind of details a child overhears at recess. I sat in seat 18C. The plane was a Boeing 727-100, registration number November 467, U.S. I remember the number on the tail. I ordered a bourbon and soda after takeoff, then another one before we landed in Seattle. I smoked Raleigh cigarettes, the filter kind. I had wraparound sunglasses, dark frames. I wore a black raincoat over my suit. When the plane landed in Seattle, they brought the money and the parachutes to the tarmac. I let all the passengers off. I kept the crew. Florence stayed. So did the co-pilot and the flight engineer. I made them. Take off again. I told them to fly to Mexico City. But I was lying. I was going to jump. I knew the 727 had a rear air stair, the aft staircase. It could be opened in flight. That is why I picked that plane. I waited until we were over the Cascade Range. Then I told the crew to lower the stairs. The co-pilot said it was dangerous. I did not care. I strapped the money bag to my waist with the reserve parachute harness. It was heavy, so heavy, about 21 pounds. The bills were used, $20 bills, series 1969. The serial numbers started with L. I remember some of them. L10101, L1005, L10382, L15661. The FBI marked them. I knew that. But I didn't care. I thought I could hide the money long enough for the heat to die down. Then I would come back for it. But I never got the chance. Rachel is frozen. She is staring at her son. He is 8 years old. He should not know what a Boeing 727 aft air stair is. He should not know registration numbers. He should not know FBI serial number prefixes. She grabs her phone with shaking hands. She types into Google, D.B. Cooper serial numbers. The first result is a scanned FBI document released to the public in 2016 when the Bureau officially closed the case. The document lists the serial number range of the marked ransom bills, L101 through L18000, $10,000 $20 bills, $200,000, the exact range Lucas just recited. Rachel feels like she's going to vomit. Lucas is still talking. His eyes are distant, glassy, like he's watching a movie no one else can see. I jumped at 8:13 p.m. It was raining, pitch black. The pilots had the plane at 10,000 feet, flaps 15 degrees, airspeed around 200 knots. I told them that. I knew the specs. I knew the 727 could fly slow and low. I went to the back of the plane. I opened the air stair. The wind hit me like a fist. The noise was deafening. I could barely see. I clipped the money bag to my belt. I put on the main parachute. I left the reserve on the plane. I did not need it. I stood at the edge of the stairs. I looked down. Nothing but darkness. And then I jumped. Rachel is crying now. She does not know why. She does not understand what is happening. She shakes Lucas gently. She says his name over and over, but he does not respond. He just keeps talking. I pulled the ripcord at around 5,000 feet. The chute opened, but the wind was stronger than I thought. I could not steer. The money bag was pulling me down. I was descending too fast. I saw trees coming up, Douglas firs, tall, dense. I tried to pull the toggles to steer away, but it was too late. I hit the branches at full speed. My feet hit first, then my legs. I heard the crack. Both femurs snapped like branches. The pain was unbelievable. I screamed, but no one could hear me. I was 15 feet off the ground. The parachute was tangled in the branches above me. I was hanging, swinging. I could not move my legs. They were shattered. I tried to pull myself up to unhook the chute, but I could not. I was too weak. The rain kept falling. It soaked through my suit, through my skin. I was freezing. I could feel my body shutting down. I knew I was dying. I thought about cutting the money bag loose. Maybe someone would find it. Maybe it would mean something. So I did. I cut the straps. The bag fell into the ravine below. I heard it hit the rocks. Then I closed my eyes. I waited. And then everything went black. Rachel is sobbing. She wakes her husband. Marcus stumbles into the room half asleep, confused. Then he sees his wife crying and his son sitting rigid in bed, staring at nothing. Rachel tells him to listen. Lucas repeats the story, word for word. Marcus goes pale. He is a logical man. He does not believe in ghosts. He does not believe in reincarnation. He does not believe in past lives. But he is hearing his son describe a hijacking from 1971 in terrifying detail. Marcus opens his laptop. He pulls up the FBI case file. It is public record now, declassified, released in 2016 after the Bureau spent 45 years investigating and found nothing. He reads through the documents. Florence Schaffner's witness statement. She described the hijacker as calm, mid-40s, polite, dark business suit, black clip-on tie. She later identified the tie brand as J.C. Penney after investigators found it abandoned on the plane. The hijacker ordered bourbon and soda. He smoked Raleigh cigarettes. He wore wraparound sunglasses. He knew specific technical details about the Boeing 727 that only someone with aviation knowledge would know. He requested the aft air stair be left open. He specified an altitude of 10,000 feet, airspeed of 200 knots, flaps at 15 degrees. These are not details a child invents. Marcus looks at his son. Lucas is calm now. Too calm. His face is blank. Marcus asks him, "Where exactly did you jump?" Lucas does not hesitate. He gets out of bed. He walks to the living room. He picks up the family iPad from the coffee table. He opens Google Maps. His small fingers zoom into southwestern Washington. He scrolls slowly, then he stops. He taps the screen. Ariel, Washington, a tiny unincorporated community northwest of Portland, just above the Lewis River. Population 207, nothing but forest and logging roads. The exact area the FBI searched in 1971. The exact area where, in February 1980, an 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram was digging a fire pit with his family along the banks of the Columbia River near Vancouver, Washington, and found 3 bundles of decomposed $20 bills buried in the sand. The bills were rotted, crumbling, but the serial numbers were still readable. They matched D.B. Cooper's ransom money, $5,800, the only physical evidence ever recovered. The rest of the money vanished. No other bills ever surfaced, not in banks, not in circulation, nowhere. Marcus asks Lucas, "Where is the rest of the money?" Lucas looks at him with empty eyes and says, "I buried it, near the Merced River, but not the Merced in California. There was a small creek, a tributary off the Lewis. The locals called it Merced Creek. There's a rock formation that looks like a broken tooth. I dug a hole under the roots of a western red cedar tree. I wrapped the money in a canvas tarp. I put it in the hole. I covered it with rocks and dirt. But the rain came. The water washed everything away. The creek dried up. The forest changed. No one will ever find it." Marcus types into his laptop, Merced Creek, Washington. Nothing comes up. He tries Merced Tributary Lewis River. Still nothing. He searches historical logging maps from the 1970s. He finds a digitized map from the Washington State Archives. There, in faded ink, is a notation for a seasonal creek labeled Merced CK. It ran southeast of Ariel, feeding into the Lewis River drainage. But the creek does not exist anymore. It dried up in the late 1960s when a logging company clear-cut the watershed and rerouted the runoff. By 1971, Merced Creek was barely a trickle. By 1975, it was gone. Lucas should not know this. There is no reason an 8-year-old boy in 2025 would know about a dried-up creek that has not appeared on any modern map for 50 years. Rachel calls her sister, who is a child psychologist at Seattle Children's Hospital. She explains the situation. Her sister listens without interrupting. When Rachel finishes, there's a long silence. Then her sister says, This is consistent with documented cases of spontaneous past life recall. The University of Virginia has a research division that studies this phenomenon. Dr. Jim Tucker. He has recorded over 2,500 cases worldwide. Most occur in children between the ages of 2 and 7. The memories usually fade by puberty. The details are often verifiable. Names, dates, locations, things the child could not possibly know. I can give you his contact information. But Rachel, you need to understand something. If this is real, if Lucas really is remembering a past life, you need to document everything now. Because these memories do not last. They fade, sometimes abruptly. And once they are gone, they do not come back. Rachel writes down Dr. Tucker's phone number. But she does not call. She is terrified. Terrified of what it means. Terrified that people will think her son is insane. Terrified that the media will find out. Terrified that someone will come looking for the money. She tells Lucas not to talk about it anymore. Lucas nods. He says, "Okay, Mom," and he goes back to bed. But every night for the next week, he has the same dream. Falling through darkness, cold wind, broken legs, and the sound of his own voice screaming into the void. December 15th, 2025. A Reddit user posts in the subreddit r Unresolved Mysteries. The username is throwawaypbdx2025. The post reads, "My nephew in Oregon claims he was Dan Cooper in a past life. He described details that are not public knowledge, specific serial numbers, the name of a dried-up creek. He marked the jump zone on a map without being told where it was. Should I report this to the FBI, or is this just a weird coincidence?" The post gets 83 comments in 6 hours. Most are skeptical. Some accuse the poster of making it up for karma. But 3 comments stand out. One is from a user claiming to be a retired FBI agent who worked cold cases in the 1990s. He private messages the original poster. He asks for more details. The poster never responds. Another comment is from someone claiming to be a professor of religious studies who specializes in reincarnation research. She offers to put the family in touch with Dr. Tucker. The poster does not reply. The third comment is from an anonymous account created the same day. It has no post history. No comments, just one line. "Tell the family to stay quiet. There are people who do not want this case solved." The post is deleted 6 hours later. The user account is deleted. The moderators of the subreddit have no record of who posted it. December 18th, 2025. Rachel receives a phone call. The number is unlisted. She answers. A man's voice. Calm, professional. He says, "Mrs. Thompson, my name is David Carver. I'm a private investigator working with a true crime podcast called Vanished. We are doing an episode on D.B. Cooper reincarnation claims. We heard through online forums that your son may have memories related to the case. We would love to interview your family. We would protect your identities. We just want to tell the story." Rachel's heart is pounding. She asks how he got her number. He does not answer. He just repeats the request. Rachel hangs up. She blocks the number. But 2 more calls come that day. Different numbers, different names, all asking the same thing. Rachel stops answering her phone. December 22nd, 2025. Something changes. Lucas wakes up and comes downstairs for breakfast. He is smiling, normal, cheerful. He asks his mom if they can go to the zoo this weekend. Rachel stares at him. She asks, "Do you remember the dreams you were having about the plane?" Lucas looks at her with confusion. He says, "What dreams?" Rachel feels a chill. She says, "The dreams about Dan Cooper, about jumping, about the money." Lucas shakes his head. He says, "I do not know what you're talking about, Mom." Rachel shows him the drawing he made 3 days earlier. A man falling through the sky. Money scattered around him, trees below. At the bottom, in Lucas's handwriting, the words, "I'm sorry. I just wanted to disappear." Lucas looks at the drawing. He tilts his head. He says, "I did not draw this. That is not my handwriting." But it is. Rachel knows her son's handwriting. She watched him draw it. Lucas shrugs and goes back to eating his cereal. Rachel wants to scream. She wants to shake him, but she does not. She just watches as her son, who 3 days ago was sobbing about dying in a tree with broken legs, now hums a song from a cartoon and asks for more orange juice. Marcus contacts Dr. Jim Tucker. He leaves a detailed voicemail. He explains everything: the dreams, the maps, the serial numbers, the dried-up creek. Dr. Tucker calls back the next day. He says, "Mr. Thompson, what you are describing is extremely common. Children who exhibit past life recall often lose the memories suddenly, especially if they are discouraged from talking about them. The brain seems to suppress the information. We do not fully understand the mechanism. It could be developmental, it could be psychological, it could be something else entirely. If you want to preserve the details, you need to write down every statement Lucas made, every drawing, every map, every specific claim, because in a few weeks it may all be gone, and once it is gone, there is no way to retrieve it." Marcus thanks him, but he does not write anything down. He is afraid. Afraid that if the story gets out, Lucas will be labeled. Afraid that the government will investigate. Afraid that someone dangerous will come looking for the money. January 3rd, 2026. Rachel's cleaning Lucas's room. She finds the iPad under his bed. She opens the browser. The history has been cleared, but the cache is still there. She checks the cached searches. One entry, December 7th, 2025. The day before Lucas woke up screaming. The search reads, "What happens when you die in a plane crash?" Rachel's hands are shaking. Lucas does not know how to clear browser history. He barely knows how to spell. He has never used the iPad unsupervised. So who searched this, and why the night before the dream started? January 10th, 2026. The family moves. They pack everything in 3 days. They do not tell friends. They do not tell neighbors. They leave Oregon. Marcus quits his job. Rachel transfers to a dental office in another state. Lucas is enrolled in a new school under a slightly different name. They never speak about D.B. Cooper again. But at night, when the house is quiet, Rachel swears she hears her son whispering in his sleep. The same words, over and over. "I'm sorry. I just wanted to disappear." But here's what no one is asking. If Lucas truly remembered being Dan Cooper, if he truly died tangled in a tree with broken legs, then how did 3 bundles of ransom money end up buried in the sand along the Columbia River 30 miles away 9 years later? Water does not flow uphill. The Columbia River is not connected to the ravine where Lucas said he dropped the money. The bills found in 1980 were partially buried, not freshly washed ashore, which means someone placed them there. Someone who knew where the money was, someone who wanted the world to believe Cooper died in the river. But if Cooper died in the trees, how did the money move? Unless he survived, unless he climbed down, unless he buried most of the money and staged his own death by planting evidence in the river. But Lucas said he died. He said he felt his body shut down. So which memory is real? And here's the second question. If Lucas's memories came from Dan Cooper's consciousness reincarnated into a new body, then where is Dan Cooper's original body? The FBI searched the area for months. Helicopters, cadaver dogs, ground-penetrating radar. They found nothing. No bones, no parachute, no clothing. If Cooper died 15 feet up in a tree in 1971, his skeleton should still be there. Trees do not consume human remains. Animals scatter bones, but they do not erase them entirely. Forensic experts say a body left in the open forest would be reduced to bones within 2 years, but those bones would remain for decades. So where is Dan Cooper's body? And if it is gone, who moved it? And why? Lucas cannot answer these questions anymore. He does not remember, or he says he does not. But every year on November 24th, Thanksgiving Eve, Lucas refuses to eat. He sits in his room. He stares out the window. He watches the sky. His mother asks him what he is looking for. He never answers. He just watches, waiting. And somewhere deep in the forests of Washington, near a creek that no longer exists, beneath the roots of a tree that may have been cut down 50 years ago, $200,000 might still be buried, rotting, forgotten, waiting for someone to remember where it is. So tell me, do you believe in reincarnation? Do you believe that consciousness survives death and returns in a new body? Or do you believe an 8-year-old boy in Oregon accessed classified FBI files, studied deleted historical maps, memorized aviation terminology, learned serial number sequences, and invented a story so detailed that even retired federal agents cannot explain it? Because one of those options is true, and both of them are terrifying. What do you think happened to Lucas? What do you think happened to Dan Cooper? And if you were the FBI, would you reopen the case? Or would you let it stay buried, just like the money, somewhere in the dark woods where no one will ever find it?